Hello, Brandon. It's Otter and Mark.
Hi, just a heads up, I'm going to have to bail probably about at the top of the hour. I've got some guests arriving, so.
Same here. I won't have to bail, but we have guests arriving.
And I don't know about Monday, but I still probably will be busy. This is a bank holiday here.
Yeah, exactly. And bank holiday Friday. Yeah. Hang on. My Mocha won't open. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Hello, Fabian. Sorry, 1 second. About that. So the 2 days ago, walking back to pick up Edgar from camp, we saw that someone counting a large amount of money, or is that a keyboard on a Windows machine? I think it's this one. Yeah, it is. I'll have to hang on. I have to send a picture here. So, just trying to put something in chat. Yeah, anyway, so we have 2 squirrels living with us now.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. I wonder if Brendan is there or if he is recording or what's happening. Oh, very odd. Anyway, as I was just mentioning to some of you, on the way home from picking up Edgar the other day, there was a tiny baby squirrel who was very weak by the side of the road. The people opposite said, oh, there's one more here. So now we have 2 squirrels living with us. So it's a bit disruptive. You're all supposed to say, oh, and all of that stuff. And aren't they cute and such like?
Oh, that's just wonderful. I hope they get nursed back to full health and get released to frolic in the woods and harvest lots of nuts before winter.
It's actually really difficult because if we support them too much, then they are domesticated and cannot survive in the wild. So we're really trying to draw the balance. But of course, it's a big adventure for Edgar, and I've fallen madly in love with both of them. One is
called. Just rehabilitate them with VR.
What's that?
Can you just rehabilitate it to life alone with VR?
That's not
to be a wild squirrel.
That's not a bad idea, except their eyes are really big on the side, you know, so I think it'd be very expensive to get them an HMD.
Yeah, but think of the squirrels.
Think of what, sorry?
Think of the squirrels. It's expensive, but then they'll be ready. Maybe they become super squirrels and teach other squirrels, and maybe they come to the meeting in a couple of months or years.
Indeed. Did you see the 2 pictures I sent, by the way, in the chat?
Yes, they are cute.
Just one of them, the one in the, you see him in the pocket. He just didn't want to be anywhere else but my pocket. So he went in there and was all very cute, and then he peed all over me. So I had to change jacket and shirt, but it's all worth it in the end.
Oh, he's adorable.
Yeah, right. They're and when they were on the side of the road, it was literally just a scrawny little nothing. So it's all I'll just send a last screenshot while we're waiting, see who is joining us. The last one is of yeah, the last one
We
here.
only got the image 6370. Was there another?
Yeah, there was a 6357 as well. Maybe you logged in right
Oh,
off,
repost it.
of course.
Oh,
Yeah, they have names now. One is Little Nut Brown Squirrel, and the other one is Jasmine because he was found under a jasmine tree, bush, or whatever you call it. So that's all good. How is everyone?
we'll just have to make a squirrel the official mascot of the lab now.
That's not a bad idea. Mozilla have their fox. Let's see if this works. Okay, did anyone click on the Brendan's otter.ai link?
Yep.
It works quite well, doesn't it? I just said that and there it is.
It works until it doesn't, and then you're wondering how much you can get out of it.
Yeah, and it doesn't assign people, of course.
Maybe there is some pairing at the beginning, or I imagine it can do that.
So the keywords today are Mocha, Gunpoint, Fabian, Brandon. Gunpoint, not sure when we said that. Oh, that was. That's funny. Very odd. Are we going to wait a few more minutes? Do you think Brandel will join us? So Fabian, you're going to do a bit of a walkthrough today, right?
Yes, I pick the day when I don't have a voice, so that's great.
Oh, we can do it on Monday or next Friday if you prefer, especially.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, the only thing is Mark has to go because it's Easter Friday, so it really varies. I mean, if we were in Norway and I was seen working today, I think I would be arrested. Here in the UK, it's much more casual, you know, all different at different places. But Mark, you have to leave in an hour, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, I've got some guests arriving at 5.
Can you bring the guests? Maybe they like to discover Spoke and VR and text.
Actually, one of my guests is actually doing archaeology at the moment, so they're probably quite at the other end of the technology spec.
I wouldn't be so sure. There are some archaeology studies with a photogrammetry.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and do model building and things. I say that. I say that in jest. No, you're quite right.
Okay, so I'm going to show something. Oh yeah, Adam's not here either. But also, you know, Scandinavia today is a big deal. So
I think Adam said he couldn't make it. I saw just a note in the Twitter group.
Peter, are you on Twitter?
Yes.
You should be joined to that group. Mark, can you please join him to that group? Right, so this thing is me having a little bit of a thought about how to control things in VR, because, you know, the control mechanisms are all over the place. And what made me actually finally sit down and be able to think about it properly was Brandel's library room. Because in VR, you know, having wide open spaces is probably not as useful as having defined spaces. Just like in an office, you would never want an office to be 1,000 kilometers wide. You would want it to be within some sort of reach. Of course, that'll change. But anyway, so under here, the idea is that in this drawing, on the left here, can you see my cursor, by the way? Okay.
Yep.
So on the left, that's an actual window. Some people don't like to be too enclosed, so have a window. This is a taxonomy / poster, post-it notes. And here's a bookshelf on the table. There are objects. This is a chair for the user. This person represents a guide, either as a cutout 2D video or as a 3D model, whatever it might be. I really like this thing that we have in some of the apps where on your arm, if you hold it up correctly, you get this option to tap for options. I think that's a really, really nice way of doing it. Another thing that could be really cool is if you have one on each side, and there became some sort of a logic about the one, let's say you're right-handed, the one on your right controls the tool, the one on the left controls the room, maybe. So just things to think about around that a little bit. And then I was thinking, even in VR, even though we will at some point be able to literally pick up something and go from VR room to VR room, for a while, we're probably going to need import exports. So that could be the main thing for this thing you get on your wrist. You get this arrow, where on the left, you have import, on the right, you have export, the middle, you have environments and tool options and that kind of stuff. It's just to give the idea that it's part of a workflow, what you're doing. And then I saw this, I think most of you saw today, the yellow Post-its that you reposted, Fabian. That was really interesting. And I had written here, it would be nice if the user has their own tools they can carry around. And in the Post-it, for those of you who didn't have a chance to see it, they're doing yellow Post-it notes and all that stuff in VR. However, they're holding a physical smartphone.
Sorry, could you say that again?
No.
My apology.
No. Anyway, so they would see that in VR and it's physical, so they could write things on it and then tear it off. Fabian?
Yeah. So all of it makes perfect sense. Including also the import export or the watch and how to both handle your content or the room. One thing that it makes me think of is, for example, I might not have the same tools as you. For example, there are some programming tools that I use, there are some editing tools you use, and maybe that's something also that could be explored, that not just you come, for example, with your set of data, but you come with your own watch or your wrist set of elements or tools are yours, but at the bottom, you can also add your own set of mini apps or function that, I don't know, for example, you like highlighting, but I don't, or I want like a little thing to program, but you want one, but that has a little, what's the name, like visual programming style, this kind of thing, so that the set of tools you bring with you itself is customizable by the user and visually available. And ideally that, for example, let's say we have a conversation like this in the room, I have my little set of tools there with my wristband, and then I see you using it, and then I can grab it from your wrist and add it online. Like, wow, that's a cool tool about the visualization of the set of concept, the network I want it to do, then I can directly take it from you, like copying part of the toolbox, basically.
I think that's absolutely brilliant. You know, with an Apple Watch now, you can share watch layouts, which of course is a gimmick, but along the lines of thinking of, I have a certain thing that I carry with me, I can actually share that thing with you, that capability. Yeah. That's a really good idea. And this is why I think it's so important for us to start building, as we have started, because then we can feel the issues with the metadata. If you're going to have a tool that's going to work in different rooms, and to be able to share it, that's obviously a huge issue, but absolutely one of the ones, quote unquote, worth dreaming about. So this is.
Sorry, just another tiny comment, but just to say, the visuals you're making now help me to think. They are like affordances or support for thoughts. So yeah, I'm really grateful that you're not just presenting, but draw some of those. So that's really helpful to me. That helped me again to not just wave hands, but to think it's a lot more concrete than just words. So that's really, really helpful.
I managed to go to town with only my iPad this week. And then I was forced to do this. And I also was surprised. I have an old, large iPad. I found it so much more pleasant to draw on. for once, it should be good. So thanks for saying that, because it was nice to finally get to a point where I had the mental space to do that. And it's all because of Randall. You know, he reinforced this thing we've gone back and forth about. It's going to be in a library. You're not going to be necessarily, not by default, will you probably watch the Linnaean stuff in the desert, let's say, right? Experimentally, of course, you could at some point, but the default will be a defined library. So the main thing that I wanted to talk to you guys is what I call displays. And displays is where you put something. So I have all kinds of writing, but in the interest of illustration, I put it on the map. It's so cool. Right, so this is maybe the key one. So imagine for a second that a thing has to be in a place. So if you have all kinds of things free floating in VR, it can get data, ownership, connectivity, all that can get really messy. Maybe we can do that at some point, but this one makes the assertion that we cannot. So if we start on the left, this is what we had in the first drawing, the import. You can import rooms, models, and by model, I mean 3D models generally, images/video, data, traditional text documents, and also augmented documents, which is a container that can have all of these and more. And thank you, Mark, for helping make that distinction. So then on export, you can export the room state as well as the modified items, either automatically as request, version, whatever. These will become important things, right? At the bottom of this, so to speak, are the states. There is this current state of the room. Let's say you're in the Linnaean library, but you should be able to instantly switch to another favored room, like in Photoshop. If you're editing pictures or video, depending on what you do, you can change the layout of all your palettes and everything. So ideally, you should be able to just instantly go into another room, do whatever you want, and then it should remember your previous room so you can easily go back without faffing all kinds of settings and all of that stuff. The room, the mode of the room can be what kind of lighting it has. It can also be, is it just a 360 image or video? And then we're talking about the frames on the walls for items. This goes up to this thing. These are the types of things that can be in the room. Right now, we don't need to worry about what's missing because I'm talking conceptually as kinds of things, right? So we have mural timeline. In one extent, they're the same. They're basically posters. Then we have a map that can turn into a globe, so that's a bit special. Images and video, same thing, except one moves. A model has 3 dimensions from one perspective, maybe a host. And then we have 2 interesting different things, concepts, which can be just text, which can be rendered in any form. And then we have paper cards, like the Linnaean cards, where the actual physical or visual representation is paramount. And again, we can have the knowledge container. So it becomes interesting from a couple of perspectives delving into this. One of them is these frames. For a second, let's pretend they are virtual monitors in the room, right? And let's look at their modes. It can be wall mounted. So let's say we have a timeline. It's now on the wall, framed. And then you do a thing to change the layout, and it can be floating in space if you like it. So that's why it was nice to see Adam earlier talking about snapping and all of that stuff. But then if you want it again, you can put it on a table. And the reason I think it's nice to have it in a display in a defined area, because then it's easier to add things and work with it. And if you go to a different room, depending on what these things are, they can go to different places. Because that goes straight into this thing. I was thinking about having a special thing for graphs, constellations, that kind of stuff, versus a single image. But then I realized that's a very artificial distinction. Imagine you have a display and you have one image there. That could be one of a million images. It's just you zoomed in on one. So similarly, if you have, lots of them, it shouldn't have to, what is shown there should be arbitrary. Now, when I'm saying these should be displays/monitors, obviously I'm not saying they should be isolated from the room like a traditional monitor now is in VR, because it's just a graphic. They should exist and communicate to the room what they are, but I just found the idea of having modes, so that let's say you are tapping on a button and what you tap and edit, and now you can, everything in the room has, let's say, glowing frames. So you can now move the wall-mounted mural a little to the left. You know, so you're working with the okay, I may have edited that out, but you're working with the thing itself rather than, yeah, you see, you're working with the item or the frame, right? These are two different directions. Like yeah, because the thing is, in VR space, you can take a computer monitor and move it anywhere so super easily that you cannot do in physical space, so we don't need to worry about it, but you should be able to. So that's why it's the idea of having the option for doing perfect placement, but also just changing modes. So you can instantly say from wall to table, and it knows where it is. Yeah, that's it really.
So I think the snapping aspect is yeah, it's challenging. It's what makes it smart. Let's say you take something and then it doesn't. It can be freely floating, of course, at the default mode where you put it, you move it and it's there. But what I notice very often is that people, me included, get how do you say? Finicky. So you take the idea, you put it on the wall, and then you spend, so that takes you 10 seconds, and then it takes you 2 minutes to try to adjust it. So it's perfectly parallel to the wall. It never is. So it's like a really big waste of time. But then, yeah, you can snap it on the wall. That's relatively easy. But then do you also allow grouping so that you, when you make it next to an object, they snap together or next to? So it's, I think it is a superpower in the sense that if I go on the physical wall, I can't put a post-it just right. But to make the snapping itself smart enough that it doesn't get frustrating, that when you want it free, it stays free, and when it snaps, it does snap just the right way, is, I mean, it's not necessarily technically super challenging. It's more in terms of when do we want it to snap, when do we want it not to snap, and how does it snap? That just, I think, requires a bit of thinking about the process and trying, but yeah, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, absolutely, because the fact that you can do everything in VR doesn't make it easier. Having these frames helps, yes. Snapping and so on. Just looking at the text messages also. Yeah, so this kind of cross-fading into different rooms is, it depends what you mean by a room in this context, because a room can be, hi Brandel, when did you enter? You were off my screen.
No, I was in here about 10 minutes, but I was also talking to somebody about work. We're typing to somebody about work, so I'm sort of still catching up.
So you're kind of, okay, that's cool. Yeah, so the thing about different rooms, Peter, if you're talking about the background of the room and the layout, if it's by the same software team, so to speak, we can do all kinds of transitions. But it's also the challenge of you go from one room to another, then it becomes something else. Yeah, Mark and then Fabian.
Yeah, just very quick one. Firstly, this is really interesting, your graph, and I did see the picture you posted in the Twitter group about the putting in 3D, which was really nice. Just a thought in terms of this thing of sort of stored states and rooms. In it's really just a mental sort of note that there being a similarity but difference between versions of things and view states. So in a sense, the sort of made the rooms were covering two things there. So I might want to see a different view state of the same room, or I might want to see the room as it was exactly at 23:59 last night. At one level it's all data below, but obviously it's you're actually after a different thing. But I don't have a deeper observation than that. Fabian.
I'm wondering if we could learn also from iframes, because in the end, when we move a document around in Illustrator or Inkscape or wherever, There are visuals. When we move them elsewhere, they tend to be static. But when we move an iframe around, then it can be anything else. It can be an entire website with its own interface. And I feel like, okay, it's not exactly the same in VR, but when we talk here about frames or display, or also, yeah, how they were back in time, I feel like the iframe is probably one of the closest in terms of not just hypermedia, but transmedia and any kind of content, mixing with any kind of content. So I don't know the history of iframe or how, if there are like design recommendation from managing iframe, also having content linked from one iframe to another. It feels like there were quite a few similarities. Maybe there's something we can learn from that.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So, Brandel, just to kind of catch you up at the beginning, I was praising you many times because this one here, I started drawing to think about controls in VR. And this is based on the fact that you did the 3D model of a library. So I was just thinking along the lines of, in most cases, you will be in a space in VR. It won't just be open. So, you know, what are these things? A little aside was, it's the whole wristwatch thing to tap for options is quite nice. Maybe one of the key options is importing data and exporting. Even though we're in VR, we need to do that. Change environment tools and so on, use our own tools. Did you see the Post-it VR thing that Fabian put in?
That got in after I went to bed, but I will definitely look at it.
We should probably look at that in a second, actually, because it has some really interesting elements. But so the final thing here, and this is probably what you've seen.
From stats, low battery.
Okay. It's the idea of having items in displays, and these displays have modes such as wall-mounted, floating, or tabletop. So they kind of have different affordances depending on what you want. And then you toggle between edit display and edit item. So edit item is normal, you just do stuff. But when you go into edit display option, that's when you take the mural a little bit to the left or whatever it might be, or change the data type it does, or all that stuff. So in here we have import, export, and finally, under the items, the concept is just, it could be just text or data, but a paper card like the Linnaeus cards, the visual aspect is paramount, even though often these could be interchangeable. But then if a display is showing one item or many, it shouldn't matter for the type of display, because it could be one item out of many that are zoomed in. And finally, this is the little testy thing. It's obviously missing hundreds and thousands of creatures, but it was kind of fun to do a basic connection, and I put it into your VR view, and it was amazing, Brandel. So maybe we can use this as one of the objects in the room, that because it has a few affordances. Mark, is your hand up or not?
Sorry, I should have put it down, but I will just make an observation. Looking at that really nice last diagram, that one possible useful thing that one could show with the Linnaeus thing was, of course, we use his taxonomy today. We don't use his structure because we found out extra stuff and time changes. So in other words, there's no fault in that. But it might be interesting to be able to segue into the fact that, so, you know, here's his taxonomy, or his high level taxonomy, and here is about where we are, because I was reading a bit more about this. It's changing yet again, mainly to do with all the little animals that we can't see that are so small, but nonetheless, it's an evolving thing. But that would be a quite nice bridge from his work, because it's sort of showing that it's exactly the same process. So part of his gift, his insight, was this sort of hierarchical tree process that was new at the time, despite the fact that it's remained robust against the fact that we discovered extra bits, or we've done some rearranging compared to his model at the time.
The plant one was never meant to be a tree of life. It was purely for identification. So that was quite clear at the time, which was interesting. But the The animal one, it's still largely in use, except when it gets complicated by suddenly having subdomains and so on.
It's at the very on the very sort of primordial, all the little beasties. But he also, of course, had a classification for minerals as a type of picture. But we've decided that that's not how we see life.
So this is that post-it note thing. Oh gosh, my internet's not really good, is it? So it's all about showing relationship with the Avengers with post-it. So it's a cute little demo. And I'm not a huge fan of showing all the lines all the time. It gets messy. But what's going on here? But this thing is amazing. So she's drawing on a physical device and see what happens. Pretty cool, right? And the other thing that was quite noticeable was the way that they choose to both do connections and also do framing, so you can do groups.
I think the group aspect is powerful and important. It doesn't have to be that kind of implementation, but as soon as you have more than 5 items in post-it cards or whatever, you need some kind of structure, some ways to work at higher scale and more efficiently. So, and ideally also with potentially some depth, like groups of groups, etc. Of course, it depends for the kind of users. For let's say a first timer, you probably don't want to have all this, but as you grow more familiar with the tool and you handle more complex data, definitely needed.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, well, on Monday is when Isabel comes back from her holiday. So I don't expect her to say, let's have coffee on Tuesday. So we probably have another week. But where are we in terms of thinking about something to put on her head? Can we show what you have done, Brandel, in the library? Because that looked amazing. As in, can that be viewed easily in VR?
In virtual reality, yes, probably. What we would do is, I mean, probably the easiest thing is just to put it into SketchUp and see what it looks like there. But it's just a corner of a room right now, as you kind of saw. And if you open it up in Blender, then you know the other corners are not kind of filled out, but it should be true scale. That's that if we were to drop a camera in there, it should look like that. It won't look necessarily exactly like that because especially that still is a path trace render, a very high quality render, and it is possible to sort of take what's called a bake some of the sort of visual aspects of that to make sure that the interiors of the bookshelves and things like that are decently sort of shaded and obscured, because crannies get dark. And that's unfortunately quite hard for a computer to realize how to do in real time. But yeah, we can definitely take that and start looking at what it looks like in virtual reality. With a PC, unfortunately, you'd be able to put an Oculus Quest, plug it right in, and actually see directly in Blender all of that stuff. But I'm not aware of that capability being available for Mac at this point.
Right.
And we could also try to make it into a web page, but I haven't investigated. I haven't thought about that. And you'd have the ability to control aspects of the scene, but then you'd be on the hook for the render quality.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the render quality not being perfect, because in a sense we're showing too nice compared to what can be expected. But one thing I really want to know is, obviously putting all the demos together into one room is like a proper huge commercial project. So how can we relatively easily, for the user and you guys, have links from one room to another?
At this stage, I don't believe it's possible to transition between different pages while remaining in virtual reality. So At the very least, it would necessitate a sort of having somebody load a web page, and then them sort of clicking on that button and coming into a place and then jumping into virtual reality and then exiting that. But we can at least have a page that is a palette, a selection of the different destinations, and we can put that higher resolution mural, tactile mural into all of the examples that we have so far.
As a yawn, I think there might be also, when you have the Oculus browser, multiple tabs open, let's say 5 demos, and
Yes.
I don't think it takes performance hit. So you'll have your 5 demos, you take the first
Yes.
one, let's say if you do it right, you go in full immersive mode, and then you leave it, the second one, third one. It's not, of course, as natural as either having everything at once or going from one to the other and staying fully immersive. But in the end, especially for somebody who starts VR, who is not familiar yet, coming back, let's say, to the browser home and then seeing the different demos, so like this, might actually be quite nice. And also, sorry to insist on this, but I think evoking the potential of combining the demo for somebody smart, they can imagine, let's say, that step of combining them. So having a palette of different functionalities through different demos, as long as they have this wow moment, okay, I had one quality interaction, I see here this room that is beautiful, and I see it's a more complex room and whatnot, but I imagine blending them together, and maybe this is enough. And the same way that if we have things that are, let's say, too low resolution in terms of cards, it puts the onus of efforts on them. So, okay, this is really interesting. Let's build something more. So having gaps, let's say, of things that make them want to see more, usually is quite productive in kind of bringing people in.
Yeah, absolutely, completely agree. And I think all the nodding agrees with that. So can we say that we can, okay, I mean, let's take one step at a time. So Brendel, can you put the taxonomy into the mural quite easily?
Yeah, we can swap out that picture. That's no
Okay.
problem. It has a different aspect ratio, but that's totally fine.
Okay, that's fun. That's fantastic, because if we, let's say we meet on Monday and we finalize a few things, then we could say that by Friday, we should be able to have one web page on our site with a link to these different demos. And then I could probably also send a head-mounted an Oculus to Vint to receive on the following Monday. And, over the phone, Skype, whatever, Zoom, just tell him, to get into the browser, go to this place, click here, and then click, boom.
Yes, I think so. Just check the size of that, the taxonomy, because you sent that to us. Did you send an email or over Twitter?
I think all of the above, but most likely, hang on, it should be on Dropbox. Linnean high-res.zip. I'm going to give you the link now on Zoom.
Oh no, I've got it. Sorry.
Okay, cool.
Oh no, that's not the taxonomy.
Oh,
and then
no, that's right.
is it taxon.jpg?
Yes, you're right.
See what actually?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, that's that one. Okay, so take a look at the actual.
But when you do that, can you make the starting point not kind of behind the user's eyes? Because that's, we have to do this, just give it half a meter or something.
This is for the which one is behind the head at the moment, or in the head?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, both the mural and the liquid map, when I start anyway, I don't know if you guys have the same experience. It seems like I have to move back because it actually starts inside my head. Like,
Yeah, it's. I believe that I changed the author stuff yesterday so that it should be a meter in front of you, but I haven't valid. I looked right, and I didn't jump into headset, but that one hopefully it also has text backing on it, backing on it as well, and the text shouldn't be shimmering and things. But
Really?
I think so.
Too excited.
Because I,
Confirm play area. It's not a play. See, that's the thing. It's not a play area. It's a serious
Yeah.
work. It's very serious people.
That's right. That's right. That's sort of a, shows the manifest like mismatch of where the way that Meta Oculus is kind of approaching these questions and problems.
Okay, so I'm going to do the drop zone thing. You guys can do that too if you want, actually.
Yeah, I only have a silly, so I can, I've got a silly toy that, so if you're in there, then I just dropped in a sample map.
Okay.
And I hope you should. If you take a look, if you're in author on the headset, then I just dropped in something.
Okay. On which one? In the.
There we go. So you dropped in a better thing on top of it.
Sorry.
So is that in a better place by default?
No. Wow. It's right here. Yeah, it's,
Okay.
it's literally right here.
Does it have black? Does it have a black box around each word?
No.
You may need to reload.
Okay. How do I get out from here? That's another key thing. That is this, right?
That's right. We could put it is possible to put an object in there as well, that you would, an object or action that's sort of specific to the page rather than a specific command within the OS. So I have a keyboard, like a musical VR experience, and I have a big red button that resets it. In order to jump out and also to refresh the page, because it's
Oh, wow.
easier to sort of.
Who else is in here? This is absolutely brilliant. It's too far away now, actually.
Too far away? Okay.
You need the Goldilocks setting.
Yes, Goldilocks. Actually, I think exactly halfway between would be. Hey guys, who else is in here?
Just you.
One way, by the way, to get the Goldilocks setting, depending on where you, how the experience is set up, is you just make it 3 times. Make it one in front, where it's your best guess, and one on the left that is shorter, one on the right that is further away, closer and further away.
What? The right hand is not activated, right?
That's correct. Yeah, just the left hand that does the thing. It's pretty easy to make it so that both of them work.
Oh, that would be good. Mark and Fabienne, why are you not headsetting? It's so cool. It's just so cool.
That's at 50 centimeters now. If you were to reload and do the whole thing, then it would happen.
Okay, putting it in now. Reload both in 2D and 3D, right? As in VR and.
It's actually, it doesn't matter too much about the 2D. It's just the 3D that needs to.
Okay. It's not loaded here yet. I'll go back out and then again. Undefined reading distance cannot read property.
Interesting. Let me take a look. That's the issue with live codings. So that is all looking right to me here. Make sure that I give that. I don't want to derail things by doing this.
No, good point. I also got a bit lost. It's just kind of insanely incredible. Yeah, so yesterday I got a new table and chair at my little favorite garden spot, which is nice. So what's the first thing I do when I go there sitting in the garden? VR headset. Yeah, this has gone a bit funny now. All right, we can debug this later. Oh, hang on. That looks good. Why is it not? Oh, it doesn't even let me exit. Oculus button. Yes. Okay, right. So what's next, Fabian? Is today good for you to do some walkthrough, or what? What do you think?
Yeah, it is. And I honestly think it would be good for two reasons. One, so that the non-developers or people who don't feel like programming can see they can already have an impact on the ideas today. And also because if we, or rather, as we have a presentation on the 29th architecture, we can play the little game of the presenter criticizing our work. It's going to make it, I believe, a lot more interesting, and we can learn a lot more by having some critics from a professional rather than talking about grandiose idea that might just be still too far away.
Yeah, fair
Can I
enough.
just start?
Yes, please. So also, Brandel, you will be doing a Blender demo at some point, right? A bit of a walk.
Yeah, by all means. Happy to talk about how to drive and how to make shapes.
Fantastic. Okay, over to you, Fabian.
So let me know when you can see my screen.
So what are we watching for those who haven't been introduced?
So Blender is nice. The little challenge, Blender is there to create 3D objects, like for example, my remarkable stand, or objects that don't get 3D printed, like a chair or whatever you want. But it requires a bit of takeoff, and also it gives you just a 3D object. Whereas Spoke is a tool that's going to eventually, based on a 3D object, make a room, and that room you can then using Mozilla Hubs. So you can meet in that space before. So they already have like a bunch of different rooms. So I'm going to put the link in the chat so that people can try right away. Mozilla Spoke, and also importantly for developers, Spoke is open source. So for example, if we believe that the snapping system based on the Ford's presentation is not sufficient, then we can also challenge it and customize it. Not necessarily going to be easy, but just to say that it is feasible because it's open source, so we can customize it. But yeah, I invite you to go on the hubs.mozilla.com/spoke link, and then you can create your own project. This way you don't have to just watch me or see what I'm doing, but try it on your own. And it's also free. It hosts everything. So if I just start, I'm there. I have this 3D world already. And this little persona, the spawn point, which is setting where you start the experience. So for example, if I put the spawn point here, rather than in the middle of the crater, then I'm going to start there. And I can double click to center my view on it. So you might not believe me, so I need to prove it to you. So I'm going to put publish to Hubs. I'll say future of lab school demo. I save it. It's going to be saved on the server of Mozilla, which is AWS. You can also self-host that, it's a bit demanding. I can allow others to remix it, so that, for example, you can all remix it after, or I can keep it non-public so that if it's a bit top secret, I have a little check to make sure that it's going to work, for example, on a Quest, rather than something that is amazing, beautiful, etc. But then as soon as you put the headset, yeah, you want a bucket because it's just too much. And it might sound a bit, I don't know, too much, but sometimes, for example, especially for us, if you put like a very big texture, if you transform a mural or a PDF to a very large image, you might get a warning that says, okay, this is a bit too much for the Quest or something like this. So that's important to check. Then I can view my scene. So the scene is an empty room. It doesn't have anybody that can join. It is just the model, the room that is the live place can use. So I can edit it back because I said you can remix it. So I'm going to copy also that link for you all. Then you can use it as a template, or I can create the actual scene. And what's fun is that you can now all join in. It means in a couple of minutes, literally, I have gone from a 3D space to a place other people can join, either in VR or with a mobile phone, whatever devices they have. And why I think this is quite powerful is because in terms of idea, like we start to discuss, we saw, for example, the presentation at the beginning of this meeting, and we can act on it right away. We don't need to install anything. You saw me just visiting the website. That's also the beauty of being all web-based is, for example, if you have a meeting next week with somebody who is going to criticize some of the room, you can actually let them modify. You can modify it together from their own desktop. There is a sense of ownership or ability to customize and modify that is efficient. I can then go back here and do a bit more because, of course, here I just use the creator that was given as an example. And I can use a kit or an architecture kit. So first I'll put a rock because it gives, oh, it's a big one. I can.
Where do you, okay, so good time for a question. Where do you scale it? Your computer screen is quite large, so I can't see all the details.
Yeah, so here I can select the rock. I'll first move it around to make sure that it's well on the ground. And indeed, it's a bit too big. So I have multiple options to scale it. I can just put it here. There's the scale properties.
When you say here, can you please, lower right, okay.
Okay, let me zoom quite a bit more. Is it better now?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, that's. Yeah.
It's fine. It was actually just that it was obscured by your chat window, which is ghosted. So we couldn't see it. Yeah. So it was fine size once it was visible.
Okay. And then here I can change it. So for example, 0.1, and I have my small rock. And again, I can double click on it. This is where I'm going to center my view on the rock. Otherwise, if I want to make it on the top left, you can see my mouse, I can click on scale, and then I can select the dimension I want to grow or make it smaller, it's whatever, however I want. And I can also use it, for example, to move around, go back. And here, I don't know if you see, but it snaps on the grid so that I can, for example, be every meter or so. I can disable this and then I move it freely, or I can say every 2 meters. And then it's going to have a big grid I can still see to make sure everything is perfectly aligned. I got an architecture kit.
So
can I have a,
hang on,
yeah.
Question. How did you get the architecture kit? Is that default or did you somehow?
It's default. Yeah,
okay.
It's default. So
cool.
Here, everything on the left is default. I did not add anything, customize anything. And if you take the architecture kit or the rock kit, they are very basic, but then you save in terms of performance, except if you put 1 million rocks, but overall you're going to be fine. Whereas if you go on Sketchfab, so we can search, for example, for planes. Here, I might have stuff that is gorgeous, but then in terms of performance, might be quite challenging. So for example, I'll take this one randomly.
So you just drag and drop now, right?
Yeah, you can actually just clicking on it. Here it looks like the texture is not right. So I'll remove it with the delete key and pick another one. And sometimes those are made with photogrammetry. So it means it's going to look quite realistic, but then in terms of performance, it's going to be challenging. And you can have information. So for example, I clicked on it and then I went on at the bottom of it, GRDF info.
Could you show us now how to put up a rectangle and then put an image onto it? Because that's probably going to be a nice thing we'll do often.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to.
It's so amazing. I was using 3D on the Mac, Infinity and stuff, early 90s.
Oh.
And then to kind of relearn it, but to be viewed from inside, it's just amazing.
Future of text. Is this an image? Yes, it's an image. So I can actually copy the URL back there. So yeah, my browser crashed, so I lost a bit of the content. Don't hesitate to save. It's Control-S or whatever shortcut works for you. So yes, you mentioned an image or a frame. So what I can do is I can just paste the image. So here I pasted it in the browser. And then I can select here, for example, transparency.
Hang on a second. So you went somewhere, copied an image.
I went on the Future of Text website.
Yeah, and then you copy that image.
Yeah, or the URL actually of that image.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, that's okay, brilliant.
Yeah, I might be able to drag and drop it directly, but I'm not sure. What I can definitely do also is take that image or another image from my desktop and drag and drop it. So I don't want to do it live because I don't know what image I have and it's recorded and all. So I'm not doing it, but otherwise, yeah, you go on your desktop, you drag and drop there, and it's going to upload the image on the server and display it.
How did it manage to make white alpha?
So here I selected transparency mode on the bottom left, from opaque to blend.
What about importing a 360 image inside of a large sphere? Is that easy or difficult?
Yeah, let me show you. So I have my holiday 360s on my personal website. I'll take one from Prendle's Place. Or not. Okay. Not today. That was in Bretagne, in France. I don't remember. I guess. Yes, because it loads the next one. So I take a 360 image. Voilà, that's yours truly. Take the URL, paste it like before in a Spokes window.
So when you say paste it here, do you just have this tab in focus and do Command V or Control V? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So in here, I will cancel it. I have this. I select, copy the URL, and paste it there.
Okay. And
then what I can do in projection, instead of being flat, I put 360 equirectangular. And then I can scale it. For example, I think 5,000 is the right scale. And then maybe higher because I have a nice, and now I can move the skybox. then now I'm in my crater, but in Bretagne. Well, that makes for really big people, but I think when I'm in here, it's okay. And you can double click always on the spawn point to get a bit of reference in terms of scale. That's one user, let's say. And again, if you have a 360 on your desktop, you can drop
Mark,
directly.
Mark has to go. Yeah, Mark, what do you think? Pretty amazing to watch, right? Oh, has he gone already? Oh, he had to run. Okay, fair enough.
So voilà, you have this, and also what is important is, again, you can drag and drop the 2D images like this one, 360 image like this, but you can also drag and drop or copy and paste GLB or GLTF, which is a 3D model format. So for example, after designing something from Blender, as Brendel will show, you can, like here, the terrain, that's a GLB or a GLTF. So that's a 3D model, same, you can drag and drop it. That's actually how the import from Sketchfab works. You get URL out of those 3D models, and then you can just include it in your world. Some of them are free, some of them you need to pay for, some of them are too high quality for the request. And then you have techniques like Brendel mentioned of baking the texture to make sure the shadows and all that looks right. That's a bit more advanced, definitely feasible to get a more realistic look, but not necessarily needed. It depends on what you want to focus on. And one thing important for us here that is quite new actually, that happened only a month ago, I think, is the text. Now you have high quality text. So feature of text lab demo. And now I'll put it more or less here. It's a bit small. Need to scale it. I prefer to do it like this. I put it up a bit. I didn't show, but you can of course rotate it. So you select it. Snapping is not what I want. I want 45 degrees. Voilà. And then I'm publishing it again. This way I can use it in the room. So it's going to save it. As before, it's going to do a little text check. For example, voilà, there is one large texture. So what I can do, I can publish it anyway or cancel it. And then go back here and see which one is the, let's say, guilty one or the problematic one, which is here is going to be the 360 photo. It's normal, you probably want that, so you can just ignore it, publish again. Saving it. So it's going to update my scene, but it's not going to update my room. So again, there are distinctions between the scene being the static 3D model constituted of all the elements like your text, the spawn position, and the room is the live place where you can invite people. So I can create another room, but that's not what I want to do. I want to get the URL, go back in the room where I invited you before, and then I can tell it to update the scene. So I think room info and setting, I'm not even sure. Yeah, change scene.
Very interesting to get the different vocabulary between scene and room and stuff, because
yeah,
obviously we talk and now we learn what the industry is using. Look at that.
And so I'm here. We have the images from earlier, and we have the 360 to make it look like we're in Bretagne. And yeah, again, that took what, 10 minutes maximum, I believe, and it's a live scene, meaning that you can go there, you can share that link, that the URL to anybody you want.
Can you do
they can join desktop, VR, etc.
Could you do that now, please? I'll put it on our website for testing. Is that cool?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Thank you.
And if I do run the image, I don't know, maybe it's not a good idea. Oh, it's okay. I'll take this piece of art, copy the URL, the bit of luck, and then I can still copy it here. Yeah, and I have it in the room itself, not in Spoke. So that's to design the space that's before the event usually, And then during the event, you can still have your 3D elements. You can still bring them, for example, with the controller of your Quest or your headset, and scale it, change it around. But that's, let's say, the more long-term space that users cannot modify. For example, I cannot, as a user, select, you see my mouse is, or my pointer rather is white, I can't interact with it. Whereas here, the image I just added, I can interact with it. So that's also the difference between being live in the room and then designing the scene to create a room after. But yeah, then there are a couple more options like adding video. I think that one that is particularly interesting for us, especially after the presentation, is the frame. So I can double click on a frame, move it. And then when somebody, for example, bring a photo or an image like the cat or a document, then they can, by bringing it closer to the frame, make it snap. So it's going to be on there. And then you can select only 2D media, 3D models, only image, video, only PDF. So you can make them per type of document, basically. And you can have multiple of them. So I can click on it and then duplicate it. Or I can also here right-click, duplicate, right-click, duplicate, right-click, duplicate, select, make them next to each other or newly. And I can also group them. So I select them all with Shift, group, and I can also duplicate that group and then move that group up. And then I have a wall of 8 snappable elements, let's say. And then I can do also a group out of it. So that's in terms of hierarchy. You can name them, say, group, and then I'll just publish again to show you, and I'll end up there because I think it gives the gist of it, and then of course you can do quite a bit more, but in terms of what's useful for us, I think that covers it more or less.
No news to you, Brandel, but what do you think, Peter?
Very impressive.
So cool. I'm looking forward to the URL. I want the URL in the chat.
It is in the chat.
What? Is it? I have Brandel Autobook, but not this one yet.
No, it's the Snappy Rail congregation.
So can you see it here? Now I updated it, I saved it, and now I have the frame. And if it comes when I take the object and bring it there, you see a preview of what it's going to look if I put it here. Voila. Ah, there's a bug actually. I think it looks like when you snap. Yeah, did you see? I put it on the left one and maybe it's a feature, but anyway, you get the idea. So yeah, that URL, the one with the Snappy Rail congregation, is the live link to go to that room. Oh, and one last thing that is interesting also, let's see, mute on Hubs, is there is a chat. So you might not think much of it, but if I say live text from chat, I can, with the last option here, create that text as a 3D object. It's a flat 3D object because it's text, but then I can snap it there. And then I can pin it so that it stays in the room and forever, more or less. Voilà. I don't know if there are anything I can clarify or.
I'm just posting this to VR so I can go in there.
Oh, so one trick I find to open links in the headset is I use hmd.link.
Oh, I just put it on our website, and that's so
Also.
we have a record of it too.
And HMD.link is going to be a shared space of link for every device on the same Wi-Fi or network, rather. So this way, if I go on the headset, I'm going to see that link and click on it. So that's quite convenient for WebXR.
Can't get out of this. Hang on. Boom, boom. Tracking with hands is really elegant, but sometimes controllers are just faster. Okay, I'm entering there. Anyone joining me?
Brendel and I are in there, but I think we're not in VR.
Okay.
Well, I know I'm not in VR.
Oh, no, that's to make rotate. Amazing. I'm just wondering how to rotate this
You're-
object. It's very.
You're in RR right now.
I should take the center of the object, then you can rotate it, more or less the center of it.
It's so
No.
strange.
Sure.
This default. Sorry,
The
guys.
object also has to be centered on 0, 0, 0 coordinates, I think, or more or less. Otherwise, it's going to rotate on. It's still going to rotate, but less. Let's say.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, it may not be, the object itself may not be centered. I'll take a look at it in Blender.
But I think I remember somebody else trying it a couple of days ago who had a problem. So might just be a bug from Hubs. But theoretically, you can rotate a 3D object freely when you more or less grab the center of it, assuming.
Is the cool.
I shared also my screen. I don't know if you can see it in VR.
Yes, which is super. It's stupidly cool. Future Text Volume 3. I like the cover. Oh, I'm moving about. Huh, I'm so cool. I can do that. So, question. Oh, so many questions. Yeah, Fabian, your amazing avatar. How did you make that?
So I don't remember what my avatar is.
It's a 3D version of your head.
Yeah, I think I used the 3D Player Me. No, Ready Player Me. Ready Player Me. You can either give it a photo or like put some bits together and you get something relatively good looking very quickly.
I did try that, but it didn't import properly. But okay, I can try again.
There is a special option for Hubs, so it depends where you have export it toward or against. I'll look for the link. Yeah, I have the links now. I'll put the link for that in the chat.
When I'm moving my head now like this, it gets a little kind of wave interferency here. Is that something to do with my glasses or the heaviness of the room?
This room shouldn't be too heavy, but then we added a couple of things like the book or my shared screen, so I cannot say for sure. It should work well.
It's just super cool. I'm going to have a look at the auto book now, then I have to go. I think there are people saying, where's Easter dinner?
Why is this? Yeah, it could be my fault that the auto book is 5,000. I'm not sure why.
That was very cool.
5 should work well. I mean, for the quest should be fine. But...
Yeah.
This is wonderful. Okay.
So yeah, just Spoke and Hubs can't do everything, but I think in terms of going from an ID to a 3D space where you put objects in and with some basic interactions like snapping or drawing in 3D and whatnot, it is pretty efficient. And yeah, you can share the link to the scene to somebody else. You can't collaborate with edition. So my scene is my scene, but you can remix it. So with the link I shared before, you can remix my scene, send it back. I can edit it again and import from Blender and others. So I think it's in terms of quickly getting something going. And again, I just show you basics, but there are people more talented and dedicated than me that then make a really, really impressive room more than this. And if you have a quality 3D model as the basis, rather than just a creator, you really create something out there.
Yeah, I'm very, very impressed. I'm also impressed with the simplicity of it. And simplicity is important when trying to sketch things. Yeah, fantastic. Are you guys okay if we finish a bit early today due to Easter imposition?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah, great idea.
Okay, cool.
Happy Easter, everybody.
Yeah, hang on, before you, on Monday, I may have an issue. We may be on our way to Diggerland. It's Edgar's Prize. There's a theme park called Diggerland. It's all.
I've heard of it. It's awesome that you're going.
God. Yeah, actually, I should be okay. I should be okay on Monday. I'll send a message otherwise. Anyway, this is wonderful. Thank you, guys. Happy Easter, whatever Easter may mean to you particularly. Bye, guys.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Fabian. This is awesome.